Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the second part of lesson 1, where we're looking at the mapping of morphology. There are two aspects, inshallah, I want to cover in the second part of the video. I split the video into two just to make it palatable for you, inshallah. Here we've looked at in the past video, part 1, how the root goes in. We didn't go into any detail, but shows you the possibility of the number of words that can come. Just as a very basic example, from the 3 root letters, it's like 3 roots coming out with number of large trunks, and from there forking out. So if you can imagine one of them to be verb, the other one to be noun, then the many subcategories of nouns are produced and many subcategories of verbs are produced. So it's all from the 3 root. The 3 root letters gives us some basic meaning from which words are derived, and there's always a link between the root, essential root meanings, I should say meanings, not meaning, and from there, inshallah ta'ala, you can see how different words are conjugated from the root. And the principle is really every time you add something to the root, whether it's a vowel or an additional consonant sound, at all time you are adding additional meaning. And this is not random, but is fixed on a scale. Just to make that point clear, I'm going to now give you an illustrated example of how the main conjugation points, which I call the top line. I'll explain that later, inshallah, in coming videos, where the first item on the each category here, for example, in the verbs, as well as the nouns, and then from there we can conjugate its duals, its plurals, etc. I'm going to show you how that works, just to give you an illustrated example so you don't think it's all theory that I'm giving you. And inshallah, very soon you will be able to do that. And once you're thereabouts, you can then now deal with more of the so-called complex issues in Arabic grammar, even go into Quran translation, inshallah, as well as grammatical analysis of Quranic text. But without really doing this, you will be always going back and forth. So we're going to go through in book 2 the structured approach to this learning. We're going to learn form 1. We're going to learn the sound letters. Then we're going to do the weak ones, which we have already previously mentioned at the end of part 1. And then we're going to learn the mazid fi. Throughout this process, we will be learning additional rules related to the verbal sentences, inshallah. So the first part of this video, I'm going to give you illustrated examples, and then second part, I'm going to give you a map of the verbal sentence. We've already done some verbal sentences in book 1, but here we're going to just look at the main structures, and then later on, inshallah ta'ala, through the examples as we go through the lessons. In each lessons it will increase your depth and also your depth of understanding, as well as your broad aspect of the root words, their meanings, etc., as well as how to apply them in Jumlah Ismiya and Jumlah Fi'liya and so on. So let us begin with the blessed name of Allah, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, seeking His help and His mercy, and continuing with our dua, Rabbi Zidni Ilma, O my Lord, increase me in knowledge. On the screen in front of you, you have the 10 numbers, 1 to 10, the Roman numbers, which you can see on the right hand side, inshallah ta'ala. And each one has the scale of the past tense here, present tense here, these are all verbs, and of course the command form. I've only kept a few here, otherwise the chart could grow significantly longer this way. So just a few. And then we have the masdar, the verbal noun. Then we have the doer, okay, noun, and then we have the object. Of course, all the others I mentioned in part 1 could also be here. So these are your top lines. From there, for example, this is the past tense, fa'ala, for example. From there, you will conjugate 14 past tense verbs, a different one for each doer, which is the 4 pronouns that we have, the second person, third person, first person, singular, dual, plural, etc. So that's the madi. From there, you'll conjugate. We'll learn how to do that in the next lesson, inshallah. Then you have the mudare, which is the verb, that is the action not yet done or will be done. Then we have the command form. So you have the scales for each one, and from there you can easily conjugate the others once you know how to do that. Then we have the masdar. Masdar is not known for form 1 because there is no fixed pattern, but form 2 to 10, it's very easy to recognize them and of course conjugate them also. The noun of the doer in form 1 and all the other forms are here. the noun of the object is also here. And similarly, that would be the case if we went across. So this is going to be our main chart of study. That's all we need as a reference point, inshallah ta'ala. And soon there will be a site where you can download this from. Please bear with me. I'm working on design work. Is not on my best skill, but we will get a website for you to download from, and it will be in the description. So please look at the description rather than messaging directly. As soon as it's ready, for each video where the notes are, I will tell you, inshallah ta'ala, and you can inshallah download them from there. So each page will have its own notes. Each lesson will have its own notes, and you can get a link and whatever useful notes that there is, including this diagram, inshallah, I'll share with you. Anyway, back to the point here. So this is all you need to know. Now, in truth, you don't even need to know all of this. Once you've done a few examples of the verbs and you're aware of them, you don't even need this chart, because once you've done number 10, you know exactly what it looks like, so you can put it to one side. Same is the case with the others. So it's just there for study purposes. Once you know it, you don't need to carry it around with you. You can conjugate yourself, inshallah ta'ala. But at the beginning, this is very, very useful. I found it very useful, so I rewrote it myself, inshallah. I'm hoping and praying there's no mistakes in there. But that's the scales. This is the scale. All we do is change the root letters in it. So that's basically, inshallah ta'ala, where we are going to start our study from, or use it as a base. We'll start with number 1, and then we'll go across with the others, inshallah. So the reminder are, there are two groups, group 1, Mujarrad, and group 2 to 10. So when I say form 1, that's what I mean. So I'm not going to repeat the terminology again and again. And 2 to 10, we'll just number them. And you can see the number of times. So form 1 is the most important, then form 4, then form 8, and then we've got, which is the next one here, sorry, form 8, and then possibly in the front number 5. So that's the order of the frequency of words that you will find in the Qur'an, the stats as I have them. So basically, if you just learn a few forms, then inshallah ta'ala, bulk of the work is done. And the rules that you learned in terms of, whether it's a verb and all of that, they apply equally to all, even including form 4 and all the 4 root letters and others, inshallah ta'ala. So this is where the bulk of our study needs to be. So in the illustrated example, I'm going to give you a couple from here. Okay, form 1, and then I'm going to give you one from form 4. That should be enough. Otherwise, this lesson will be long. We could conjugate all night. As you know, there are thousands and thousands of words, and I'll show you how easy it is. And very soon, inshallah ta'ala, you will be able to do the same. On the screen, you can see in blue, I have the scale on the top. So the bab is mentioned on the side here. We have the number 1, and we have a sub noon there. Don't worry, that will become clear, inshallah ta'ala, as we go through. But we have the 3 root letters. Long as I know what scale they're supposed to follow, all I got to replace is the fa, ayn, and lam with the 3 root letters, and that's it. If I replace the fa, ayn, and lam with the 3 root letters, that's it. I don't need to do any more. So what I do here, fa is of course the first root letter here is kha. Ayn is the second root letter, which has a fatha. So the second root letter I have here is lam. And then the lam that's on the template follows the qaf, which is here. So khalaqa literally means he created. Now if I want to put the present tense, it's got a ya in the front. The first root letter will have a sukun, so yakh. The second root letter, which is the lam, will have a dhamma, and the last root letter will have a dhamma. So I'm following the scale. I hope you can appreciate that, inshallah. Just keep your eye on the scale, and then the change of fa with kha, change of ayn with lam, and change of lam with qaf. So x, y, z, just similar to equation. Here, for example, I have alif, and then is actually a hamzatul wasl. So we have the first root letter, which has got sukun. Second root letter, which is the lam, got a dhamma. And the third root letter, which has got a sukun with a qaf. And of course, this is read ukhluq, create. Ukhluq, create, command form. The masdar is not known for this pattern, meaning you cannot recognize it automatically. You have to go to the dictionary, find what that is. But the one who creates, the creator, the doer noun, from the same root is like so. Look, fa with a fatha and an extra alif afterwards. And then the second root letter's got lam, which is got a kasra, and the third root letter's got a dhamma. Khaliqun means the creator. So khalaqa verb, basic meaning to create. Yakhluqu, he creates. Ukhluq, to create, command form to create. Khaliq or khaliqun is what? creator, the one who creates. And that which is created, which is the object form, look, I'm just following the pattern. First root letter sukun, second root letter dhamma, then a waw, and then third root letter. So the waw here is extra, meme is extra at the beginning, makhluqun, the creation, makhluqun. So Allah is khaliq, the creator, and makhluq is everything else, you and I. That's how easy it is, inshallah ta'ala. Let's go for another example, inshallah, very quickly. We have ra, ha, and meme. Ra, ha, and meme. These are the root letters, means to show mercy. So we have ra, hi, ma. I hope you can see I'm following fa'ila pattern here. And then yar, ha, mu. Exactly the same. I'm only following the pattern. So this is different from the top one. This is slightly different variation, but I'm following a prefix pattern. And of course, this will be irham. So rahima, yarhamu, irham. Very soon you'll be able to do this. We'll leave the master alone for a moment. Rahimun, rahimun. Okay. The one who showed mercy. Shows mercy, mercy. And the one who's received? Marhumun. I hope you can see all I'm doing is following the pattern and scale. It could be any other route. Long as it goes through the door, we just follow the patterns. So for example, khalaqa could have been abada. So ayn, ba, and dal. Abada, ya'budu, u'bud. Okay, abid, ma'bud. Very simple process, inshallah ta'ala. Once you've done a couple of them, the same thing with rahim, this pattern or any of the others we'll look at. So these are all called form 1, thulathi, mujarrad, meaning there is nothing else apart from the 3 root letters in the base form. Base form is the top line where you conjugate from. That's all I mean, the top line. So let's look at now example from form mazid fi, which is the extra, just to show you that this is really very, very structured and all you need to do is follow scale. So here we have the scale at the top. You can see the first one has got the fatha on the first root letter. So the first root letter in my example is ayn. Okay, ayn lam means to know. That's the basic root meaning. Ayn has got a fatha. The second root letter has a lam. Okay, in the root letter of the ayn lam meme. And I put a shadda there with a fatha on top. So what I've done is I doubled the second root letter. Okay, alima in the base form means to know. Allama means to teach. So allama, he taught. The second, which is our verb, which is mudare, which is the action not yet complete. So you have you, yeah, with the dhamma. And then we have the first root letter. Then the lam is doubled. Allama yu'allimu. Okay. From fa'ala, yufa''ilu becomes allama yu'allimu. So you can see that here, inshallah ta'ala. And then I want to command somebody to teach. So for example, we have ayn, lam, shadda, but this time it takes a kasra and sukun. Allim, allim, allama, yu'allimu, allim. From form 2 to form 10, we can easily recognize the master, or master has a fixed pattern. So here becomes ta, fatha, ayn, sukun, lam, kasra, ya, and mim. Ta'limun, ta'limun means teaching, education, learning, that kind of thing. Now the one who does the action mentioned in the root, so ayn lam is knowledge, this and then pattern with the shadda in the middle means to give the knowledge. So here we have, and I hopefully recognize this word, muallimun, the one who parts or does the action mentioned in the root, the one who teaches. Muallimun is used for teacher, and the one who receives it will have this scale. Muallamun, muallamun. I hope, inshallah, from the above blue line, you can see all I'm doing is I'm following a preset scale. All I'm putting is the 3 root letters. There will be hundreds and hundreds of verbs that will go through the same door, and they will all follow the same voweling system along with the additional consonants that we have. And this is what we mean by the scale of the pattern. And I'm only going to do one per, otherwise this video will be too long. Now, then we have the fourth one, which is number 4, Bab 4, Form 4, whatever you want to call it. And here we're going to put the root letter Sin, Lam, and Mim. It means contentment, it means peace, it means submission, that kind of meaning. So we have here A, Hamza, okay, Sin with Sukun, Aslama, Aslama. And then the Mudari version will be Yus, Limu. So all I'm doing is replacing the Fa, Ain, Lam with Sin, Lam, and Mim. Command form will be Aslim. So if you translate as submitted, he submits, and telling somebody to submit. Okay. And Islam, now we're going to follow the if'al pattern. Look how beautiful this is. This is a word you should all know. Islamun. So that is the masdar, Islamun. So Sin, Lam, Mim, if'alun. So became the second root letter, first root letter, and so on. I'm putting a alif extra after the second root letter. So we have Islamun. And look, the one who does Islam is called, I hope you recognize that word, Muslimun. And then one who receives it, this is not that commonly used, Muslamun. Okay? Muslimun, Muslamun. Okay? Muslimun is the one we're interested in, the doer of that in the root. So the first one is the past tense, Aslama, present tense, Yuslimu, command form, Aslim, Islam is the masdar, the verbal noun, Muslim is the one who does the action mentioned in the root. So that's how beautiful and structured it is. Very soon, inshallah ta'ala, once you follow this structured way, you too will be able to do that. So if you come across a new word that you don't know, you will not only be able to recognize which root is from, but you should also be able to recognize which type of verb it is, which type of noun it is, and also conjugate its if there is dual, plural, and so on, as well as masculine and feminine forms, etc. So alhamdulillah, I hope this is bringing some light bulbs and encouragement in yourselves that what we are going to be studying is something profound and is going to give us a lifelong yield. So again, please don't take these lessons as entertainment and just there. I don't think there's anything entertaining in them anyway, but please take them seriously, that you're learning some skills, basic essential skills. Just like a person learning to cook has to learn certain basic skills which in order to cook well, and those skills he repeats throughout his life or her life. In the same way, you and I, in order to learn Arabic, to understand Qur'an, 2 or 3 skills are very, very important. Nahu, which we touched on in book 1, we'll continue to touching on here. And this is the science called sarf or morphology. Both of them are very, very important, very, very helpful. Once you've done the basics, inshallah, put your patience in, you will see, and you too will be able to do this level of conjugation yourself and very quickly recognize words and their appropriate meaning. Let me illustrate the depth, just touching the surface of what you can achieve very quickly, inshallah. We have here the 14 pronouns. Just to give you an example, I'm not going to go through it in detail. I've got a root here, fataha. It follows the form 1 pattern, fataha yaftahu. Now, what can I do if I know that it follows that? What can I do? Very simply, for the past tense, which is here, fa'ala pattern, I can produce 14 verbs. And you learn that next lesson, inshallah. So I'm not holding anything from you. 14 forms of fataha. Each one for each one of the pronouns that are mentioned on the right-hand side, which you can see here, inshallah ta'ala. So these are the pronouns. Embedded within the verb are these. And this is the beauty. This is what you're going to learn very, very soon. Now, if we have the 14 pronouns there in the verb, so there's 14 forms of that verb. For the mudari, I've got another 14. Same principle. Then I've got the passive form. Remember I mentioned earlier passive form of the verb. I have another 14 for the passive form. And then I have another 14 for the passive present. These were passive past. Okay, bit of a mouthful, but I hope you get it. And then we have the command form. 6 forms at least. There are others, but 6 forms when you directly command someone to do an action. So 1 for the singular, 1 for the dual, 1 for the plural, 1 set for the masculine, 1 set for the feminine. And then when you tell somebody not to do something, exactly the same. So iftah, open, la taftah, don't open. Fataha, he opens, yaftahu, fataha, he opened, yaftahu, he opens, and futiha, it was opened, and yuftahu, it will be opened, for example, passive forms. Then, of course, we have our nouns, not only the verbs, we have our nouns. So what happens with the nouns, for example? Fatihun, the one who does the action of opening, I can now put that into the Muslim table that you learned earlier in book 1, I believe in lesson number 5, lesson number 4 and 5. So you can create 18 indefinite and 18 definite, that's 36 from the doer. So you've got all these 14, 6, 6 plus your 36. And then of course you can also do that with the object version, maf'ul version. So you can see 36 plus 36. Then we've got all the other type of nouns we mentioned. We can conjugate also them, masculine, feminine, and where possible, what is necessary, dual and plural. So we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of words, all produced from the 3 root letters, all going through the door, long as we know which door it is. And I mentioned that one above. This door is called Bab 1, is called Bab Fataha. And look how many words it has opened up for us. So you can see, alhamdulillah, a huge amount of words that are conjugated from this root. So 14 for the first, 14 for the second, 36 here for this one, 14 here for that one, 14 for this one, 36 for that one, this one here. And then, of course, we have 6 here and we have another 6 there. So if you just count that, you will get about 140 words. And so I keep on telling the students, learn one, get 140 free. You can't go wrong, right? So if you have another one, for example, dhahaba, that goes through the door, you're flying. Every word you can now start conjugating, provided it goes through that door, you know exactly the same. If you know another door, nasara, the one we did earlier, khalaqa, we did khalaqa there as an example for each one. So we are literally talking about thousands of words potentially, but at least 100 plus relatively easy for you, inshallah ta'ala, if it has a passive form as well. So this is the science. This is where the energy needs to be spent just a little bit. Don't go too deep into this, otherwise you'll be studying it forever. All you need is enough to be able to recognize, to be able to translate and conjugate yourself if necessary. But again, I repeat, for you and I, our job is done. We are not to produce the language, it's already there. All we need to do is recognize it and translate correctly. Mapping verbal sentences. Before we go into looking at the sentence, it's very important to note there is a distinct difference between English verbs and Arabic verbs. And most important point to note is that every verb has three pieces of information, 3 distinct pieces of information, which every verb will have, which is not really there in the English language. So we have here one example, fatahtu, which means I opened. I opened. So what are the 3 pieces of information in this verb? Number 1, we know what the action is, open, to open. So the root fa, ta, and ha gives us this information, that it is something to do with opening. And these are the 3 root. Second thing, I know it is a verb because of the scale. The other thing, I know who the doer is. The doer is I. There is a pronoun in every verb. Please note that. There is no verb without the doer being there. So this verb has I. I is represented here by the ta with the dhamma tu. So fatahtu, I opened. So we know the action. That is the verb, what is doing, which is opening or opened in the past tense, and the doer. We also know the tense. How do we know the tense? Because of the way the root is structured and the vowels that it takes and any addition. So we know that this is the past tense. And again, we're going to look at that in the first lesson. So every verb in the Arabic language will have 3 pieces of information. Recognizing it correctly is the secret to translating correctly or understanding the text, or in particular understanding the verbal sentences correctly. So the first thing we need to note is the verbs, and that's why we'll be studying them first, and then we'll be looking at them, how they fit into the verbal sentences in structure as a general, and of course how they combine with Jumlah Ismiya, etc. as we go through, inshallah. The essential parts of the verbal sentence are actually 2 parts. We have the verb itself, and then we have the doer. And I explained to you that the doer can be inside the verb itself or it can be outside. We'll look at that in a second. And the third part, which is not always there, but in most cases it will be, is the object. And then you can have lots of other things. What do we mean by that? You see, we've been so far familiar with what we said, al-maf'ul bihi, meaning the direct object. But there could be other types of object, meaning when was the action done? if the action was done with anybody, the reason behind it, to express more emphasis on the action, etc. The condition, additional information, clarity, exception, etc. All of them can be added, or these types of structures can be added to the Jumla Fi'liya. Of course, the other structures we studied, like the demonstrative phrases and others, can come in between within the structure itself. In particular, jar majroor and dharf and mudaf ilayhi. So they can come in also within the verbal structure. But the key most important part is the verb itself. And we noticed already that there are 3 pieces of information with every verb. And then we have the doer of the verb, and we have the object, which we've already covered in some basic detail in book 1. But here we're going to be looking at all of the other types and the connectors with verbs, inshallah ta'ala, as we go through. So please don't worry about this terminology. I just wanted to summarize it on one screen. This will now give you the bulk of the rules that you need to know to begin to appreciate the verbal sentences in Arabic. So let's take a look at the verb first. The verbs essentially can be of 3 types. The first type is the past tense. So for example, here I've got a sentence and I've highlighted the verb in yellow so you can see it better. I'm saying in English, Hamid went to the mosque. Now, from the English sentence, you can easily tell that this is past tense. Hamid went. So I can tell from the verb, the structure here, that Hamid, or so dhahaba, is the past tense. So the first type of verb we can have is the perfect tense. The second sentence we have, yadhhabu Hamidun ila al-masjidi. That translation would be Hamid goes to the mosque, or we could say he will go to the mosque. Now, goes is in the present tense, will go in the future tense. So again, from the scale, we know that it is the imperfect, meaning the action has not yet been done. Third, if I tell someone, idhab ila al-masjid, go to the mosque. Go to the mosque. So if from the English you can tell that there are 3 tenses here. One is the past, meaning he went. He goes, present or future, we can translate. Go, imperative, and when I'm commanding you to go. So this is 3 different types of, there are others, but these are the main. Anything else would fall as subcategories of these. So they are the verbs that we need to recognize. So we need to recognize the tense, and that's where all the theory that I gave you earlier will come in. So the verb can be either in simple main categories, past, present or future tense, mudare, or a command form. And these are the 3 verbs that will come at the beginning. Now, if you noted the English translation in all of them, I had the Hamid at the beginning in the first 2 because the subject always comes first in English. Whereas in Arabic, I can put the verb at the beginning. And therefore I have a verbal sentence. This nuanced difference is almost impossible to translate into English, but you can recognize it. And there are nuanced differences in meaning. We will look at that later on, inshallah ta'ala. So here we have the 3 types of verbs. So as far as the verb categorization concerned, there will be 3 that you need to recognize. Now, as far as the doer is concerned, we have 2 possibilities, and that's very simple. If you look at it this way, when you go into Arabic, it looks complex, but it isn't. But essentially, it's 2 possibilities. Either the doer can be a pronoun or a noun. I'm sure you know the difference. For example, Hamid helped. That's okay. Who did the action? Hamid, we know. Or I could say she helped. Now we are using a pronoun in place of a noun. So the doer here is a pronoun. And that's the difference. So there's 2 main possibilities in simple side to have the doer. Doer can be a noun or a pronoun. Now here, please note, and we're going to go through this in detail. If the doer is a pronoun, then you do not need a separate pronoun in the Arabic because the pronoun is embedded within the verb itself. I mentioned this earlier, 14 different versions. So whichever pronoun you need to say, you will use a version of the verb. So in this example, I have they helped Zaid. They. So the doer of here now is they. How do I know? From the shape, and in particular from this wow. This wow here that you can see on the screen. So they helped Zaid. Please don't worry, we're going to get that very soon, inshallah. Then in the second example, the doer can be an external pronoun. So it will not be within the verb, but it can only come after two situations. Again, we'll go through in the forthcoming lesson. Here the translation is Nasarat. So she helped Maryamu, who helped Maryam. So the translation will be Maryam is the doer now. And I've got to put it in the front. This is the way it works in Arabic. In English, here is coming after the verb. I cannot put it after the verb in English. Maryam helped Zaid. So the doer of the verb now is Maryam. So that's what I mean when I say it could be a pronoun or a noun. And that's the only bit that you need to remember. And we'll show you examples after examples, inshallah ta'ala. So when you see a verb, you'll translate the pronoun. Then you look, in some cases, for a doer. Is there a noun afterwards in Rafa? Then you will translate it. And that's how easy it can be, inshallah ta'ala, if you follow this process. So the doer can be a pronoun or a noun. So in summary, if it's a pronoun, you will use one of the 14 forms of the verb, which has the pronoun embedded. Otherwise, you look for a noun that comes after the verb, which will be in the rafa or marfu state. And this is where what we learned in book 1 is going to pay dividends, inshallah ta'ala, in your study here, because this subject of i'rab is something you're going to see throughout your life in your study of Arabic. Now, when we have the object next, the object can also be a noun or a pronoun. For example, he helped. John helped. A stranger, for example. A stranger. So in both cases, the object who receives the action of help is here a noun. Okay, very easy, inshallah. I hope you can see that from the English. But if I say she helped me, the object is now as a pronoun, or she helped him. It's a pronoun. Okay, she helped us, pronoun. So you can see here now the object can also be a noun, or it could be name of a person, whatever, or it could be a pronoun. So this is the two options you have as far as the object is concerned. The object is always mansoob, and I've repeated that many times in the previous series of lessons. So here we have shakarat. Shakarat means thanked. Who thanked Maryam? You can see here. So I'll have to put Maryam first. Maryam thanked the teacher. Maryam thanked the teacher. Okay, that's the object. How do you know it's the object? You can see the fatha on top of the meme there, which is the nasab state. So Maryam thanked the teacher. Okay. Maryam thanked him. Maryam thanked him. How do I know it's him here? There is an attached pronoun at the end of the verb. These are the things you're going to learn. So in short, in summary, the object can also be a noun or a pronoun. If it's a pronoun, it will come as an attached pronoun at the end of the verb. Attached pronoun. The same set of attached pronouns we learned in book 1. When we attached them, if you remember, to harf of jar, when they were jar majroor, then we attached them to nouns. So when they became mudaf ilayhi, again, if you remember, I repeated many times. Then in both cases, this is jar majroor. But when it attached to inna or her sisters, it became mansoob, because inna and her sisters are the huruf of nasab. The other condition when it can be nasab or mansoob is when it is attached to a verb. Why? Becomes the object. So just like in English, we don't say Maryam helped or Maryam thanked he. We say no, Maryam thanked him. So in Arabic, we need the attached version of the pronoun because it is not the possessive version. And that is what the difference is, inshallah ta'ala, between the two types of object, either a pronoun, then it will be attached to the verb, or a noun, it will come after, mostly after the verb in the nasab state. When it is a pronoun, we will say it is nasab. Why? Because it is being attached to a verb and it is acting as the direct object. Remember, it is the direct object of the verb. And that's it. That's your main structure of the Jumla fi'liya. So in summary, verb can be of three types. Perfect tense, i.e. the action completed. Imperfect tense, the action being done or will be done. Or the command form, when you command somebody to do. Of course, there are other types of verb like prohibitive, which is really and essentially similar to the command form. Then the doer of the verb can be a pronoun. For example, he helped me. So the doer is a pronoun. Or he helped the student. The doer is a pronoun. Or it can be a noun. Hamid helped me. Hamid now being the doer. So it can be noun or a pronoun. The object can also be a noun or a pronoun. I helped Hamid. Or Zaid helped me. So the object now here is a pronoun. And that's it. As complex as it looks, these are the things that you need to get your head around. Through a little bit of practice, they are very, very easy. The rest of it is detail. And of course, with detail comes additional rules. But these are the areas where we will be focusing on, inshallah, at the beginning. And then later on, we'll go into deeper. Now, if you don't get these, you will get confused further down. And this is one of the reasons why I feel a lot of people give up Arabic, is they start and they're thrown lots of things, and because they haven't learned the basics very well, they get confused with all these other things, and they're not really complex. Arabic is a very structured language, full of rules and sub-rules, etc. But as long as you practice the rules are very logical and make sense. If you don't practice them, nobody can remember rules. Like all equations in maths, they're very difficult to remember, just x, y, z squared and all of that stuff. But once you start doing and using the equations, they stick. So the more examples you do, the quicker you will learn. In conclusion, brothers, these are the structures. We're back to where we started for our journey. We began by saying there are only three types of words in Arabic. They come together to make construct. The construct is of two types, Jumla ismiya, Jumla fi'liya, which gives us meaning, and then part construct or incomplete constructs are few here. Of course, we're going to add to that list later on, but that's basically the structure. In this course, we're going to focus on, of course, learning the grammatical structures that you see here. But more importantly, we're going to learn how the roots go and form these words and how the connection remains, how to recognize them, not only the verbs, but also the asma, the nouns that are derived from the root. This will give us a wealth of foundation from which, even if we don't recognize the word, we can quickly go and check in the dictionary, we can check its meaning, and therefore, inshallah, if we practice with the most common words of Al-Qur'an first, this stuff will become relatively second nature to us. Just like most of us can speak English relatively well, whether we learned it as a second language, because we use it every single day. It's this frequency and it's also this determination, inshallah, that will help us. So I want to take this opportunity to thank you for all the feedback you've given on book one, and so many of you have requested for this, and I do apologize. This project was delayed by more than a year and a half, partly due to my own fault. So now, alhamdulillah, I made the intention to complete these lessons. I want to thank you for all of you giving support, du'as and messages. May Allah bless you, and of course for all of you who found mistakes and errors in the slides and others, and also given me ideas to how to improve them. May Allah bless you for it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever I'm using here for your benefit. Some of the slides have been used from other places who've actually shared it with me freely. Elki Mississauga is also one from Canada. They've shared their details with me, and a few other places. Alhamdulillah, may Allah bless them all. I cannot thank all the people who helped me more than enough. It is my fault, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me that there's been such a delay. But I made the intention. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me tawfiq first of all, and the ability and the resources to find time to finish this series. And I hope inshallah ta'ala by the end of the series, both yourself and myself, we will both gain in knowledge, and we will both travel closer and closer to the book of Allah, and more importantly, more than anything in the world, to the forgiveness of Allah Azza wa Jalla and His acceptance of our good deeds and forgiveness of our mistakes. May Allah bless you for watching. Please kindly like, share, subscribe, encourage others to learn also. Share it with your family, your friends, your loved ones, and encourage the ummah to turn back to the Qur'an, to learn it, to read it correctly, to understand its message, and above all, invite humanity to it and live according to His rules. May Allah forgive any of my mistakes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me the ability, tawfiq, to fulfill the obligation here. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you all abundantly. And inshallah ta'ala, I will see you in the next video. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.